Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Google for Business podcast. I'm Martin Sherrington, and I've got a cracking, what do you call these, event lined up? I think so. Interview is what we call it. But you're going to enjoy it very much indeed. Ready? Here we go. My special guest is James Dearsley. And just to give you a little taster, let me read this quote. In the 2030s, said Ray Kurzweil, we're going to send nanobots, yeah, that sounds like Hero 8, into the brain via capillaries. That will provide full immersion virtual reality from within from within the nervous system and will connect our neocortex to the cloud. Yes, things are about to get very trippy. Okay, so everybody, here is James Dearsley. He is the man for VR, virtual reality, augmented reality, all such things. Welcome, James.
Hello, Martin. Hello, nice to be back.
It's good to be back. Good to be here. So you're in London, just about. You're in London?
Yeah, just a little bit south.
Just a little bit south. I'm in Bristol. We're both in the same country for a change, which is good. And we like this geeky VR stuff going on, but what is happening at the moment? What should we be paying attention to?
Christ, you know what? I would never use the term geeky. It's funny, isn't it? I think in the past, I think we probably could have been criticised for being a bit geeky, but it's become so mainstream now. I think it's sort of, we've gone past that. I mean, I'll never forget, I woke up in the morning listening to Radio 4 Today programme, very British, as you know.
Yeah.
And they said Facebook had just bought it for 2.3 billion. And I thought, Christ, my two worlds have
Oculus Rift, you now mean, yes?
Yes, I do. So Facebook.
Hold on. That's not the whole of VR. Let's not give it all to Facebook on the plate, James.
No, exactly. But all I'm trying to allude to is that was the day that my geekiness went by.
Yeah.
Suddenly it became mainstream. But no, I mean, you asked me about what do we need to be sort of aware of. I mean, Christ, it's vast. I mean, ever since that day, I mean, almost every single great big enterprise brand, from sort of Sony through to Oculus through to, Microsoft, have all come out with various bits on pieces of a version of a VR or an AR headset. So we just need to be aware that this is a moving platform at the moment, which is only going to grow in the next 12 months. I mean, it's going to be massive.
Well, I'm pleased that you used the word platform, because that's when I got it. I suddenly realised it was the Next Web article, and they said virtual reality is the next platform. And obviously we talk about mobile and we talk about desktop and being platform. And as soon as they said that, I went, of course. Yeah. That's a way to view it, because that can be communicated as well then, and it will transform potentially how we communicate and how we market. So let's talk about the marketing bit to start with. What's going on there?
Well, it's difficult, isn't it? Because I mean, the first thing, just going back one stage, you said at the start VR and AR. Just to put this in sort of in reality terms, in terms of where we're going with this. It said that by 2020, this sort of accumulated market is going to be worth $150 billion. Now, interestingly, 30 billion of that, only 30 billion, is said to be coming from the VR market. 120 billion of that is meant to come from the AR market. Now, personally, I think we're going to get to a point where, from a marketing standpoint, so bringing into that point there for a second, we're not going to have a virtual reality and an augmented reality. I think we're going to get to a point where we can effectively choose to be between different realities, whether it be true real life, i.e. reality, augmented reality, or virtual reality. So sort of a touching point between them, or fully immersion. And I think we're going to call that something like selective reality or interactive reality, where we can effectively choose where we want to be. And as marketers, I think we just need to be able to position brands, products accordingly. So we're saying, okay, are we going to be marketing to people who are in the virtual world? And therefore there's got to be a sort of a world around this product placement side. Are we going to be in the world of augmented reality, where we're superimposing digital imagery over a physical space? And then that brings out an entirely new spectrum of advertising and marketing. And for me, it comes down to the one sort of word, which I know you harp on about it, I certainly do, which is the word of context. We have to be aware that whereas in the early 1900s, where Coke very famously started to talk about growing revenue as a share of wallet. What we're talking about now, and it's already been said, funnily enough, of Google, we're starting to talk about a share of vision. And I think marketers have to be really, really careful not to blow it. Because if we start sort of positioning adverts, products in people's vision and directly into their eye sockets, you're going to turn them off pretty quickly. So contextualized marketing is going to be absolutely key and fundamental in the VR and AR space.
It's interesting you say that, because I like the little roller coasters that you get on the mobile. You know, so it goes into cardboard or goes into. In fact, the system you gave me is one that I've been using as well. You know, a sort of fold up. These are basic headsets, aren't they? But you could put them in a magazine. And I like the roller coasters, but there was this one I downloaded that had billboards advertising the headset, which this product with the roller coaster came from. And they jumped at me more than the experience of being on the roller coaster. And I went, yeah, I'm not going to use that one again, because you were too pushy with your brand. Yep. You know, they could have had it at the start and the end, and I would have got the message. But it was funny that was my response. When I've been given something for free, it doesn't matter, it's given for free.
Yeah. But if you put that back into sort of advertising, what used to happen, obviously, the world of disruptive advertising, and I hate the word disruptive in the traditional sense, because obviously that's what it was. It was sticking on TV adverts, which just came in between programs. Yeah. It wasn't a particularly personalized experience because you're just watching telly. When you're in a virtual reality experience, let's use that as the sort of the benchmark here. I just think it is the absolute ultimate in personalized experiences you're ever going to get. You are immersed in an environment that you absolutely have chosen to be in. You are most likely an avatar that you want to be, doing what you want to do, how you want to do it. And suddenly, if something sticks out at you, which bears no resemblance to why you are in this immersive space in the first place, you're going to have the reaction that you had. It's an absolute, brands have got to be so very careful. I mean, interestingly, this is sort of off topic a second. I saw Coca-Cola only yesterday have brought out the first commercial emoji. It's stuff like this, but it's very, very cleverly. There's no real branding, but you'd know it was a Coke bottle. It's things like that within virtual reality and augmented reality, where brands have just got to be clever and aware of what the space they are entering.
Okay, let's talk then a little bit on the AR, the augmented reality side, particularly with a little Google focus, because they're one of the investors. You know where I'm going with this.
Yep.
Magic Leap.
Fascinating one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've never heard so much talked about something which we know so little about. But no, I mean, putting it into context, I mean, obviously there's two forms of sort of AR which are going to pitch against each other. I mean, first and foremost, I'll mention HoloLens because it's the one that's capturing the headlines, because they're starting to try and expose it a little bit. And some people are saying that it's Microsoft's way of getting back at Apple for the decade that they've lost to their devices. But again, that is all about superimposing images into a headset over your physical viewpoint. But Magic Leap seemingly are doing a similar thing. So last year they raised over $500 million. I think it's 540 odd to be exact. But the interesting thing is that, I mean, only in the last day, I mean, this is how quick this space moves. Only in the last day, it's now rumored that Alibaba are investing another $200 million into it.
Wow.
And they're going to be getting over $1 billion in second round funding. Now, that's, I mean, in itself is a pretty impressive task. They're getting a second round of funding over $1 billion. But if you put that into true context of the funding world that we are in at the moment, this is something we know very little about. And yet it's about to become one of the single highest funding raises ever.
Yeah.
That just puts it into context. Uber, for Christ's sake, they only managed to raise 1.2 billion in 2 rounds of funding. Facebook are pretty much the only other company having existed for as long as they have done, and they raised 1.5 billion. This is a company most people know nothing about, and yet they're about to raise 1 billion. So it's a very, very exciting area, in my view.
And I mean, the information that's coming out on it, we had one real video, didn't we? Which was, they said that this is what you'll see from the headset.
Yeah.
And I looked at the response on YouTube, and people were like, yeah, because people want to get their hands on it. It doesn't do it justice. This is the problem with VR and AR. Looking at the videos, it's not the point, is it? Is having the experience.
Yeah, totally. It's an absolute experiential sort of bit of software that you need, hardware that you need to have tried out and then experience. And otherwise, it will not set the world on fire. It's only when the gamers get the experience within the virtual reality headsets of true immersion and being central to the story rather than just being a bit part and you're playing with it. Suddenly, when you feel a part of it, that is when it's all going to change.
Let's talk a little about small business. Should they care about any of this?
Totally. Let me explain part of the reason why I think it's incredibly important. If nothing else, just to be aware that this is around the corner. When I'm talking sort of about the virtual reality experiences, I sort of break it down into two very, very distinct areas. One area, which is probably what most people assume, is it's all about these great big, all-encompassing, powerful, immersive, tethered, and ultimately experiential headsets, which you stick on your head. It's part of a game. You're immersed into the whole thing. You stay there for a long time, and you're just part of this experience. That, for me, is where Oculus is pitching everything, which is where some of the other big headsets like HoloLens are pitching it. They're going to be priced at $1,000+ to get hold of one of these, let alone the computing power that you need to power them. That, for me, is about gaming. It's about massive brand, sort of powerful, angry VR experiences. It's going to be outrageously amazing, but it's going to cost you money. Then you've got to break it down to what you just mentioned earlier on, which is where I think the real power of virtual reality is going to be, which is the average Joe public who wants to experience this but hasn't got that budget. You've got the fact you can go onto eBay and you can buy personalized Google Cardboard devices, which will cost you less than $15 to purchase. You can have them, if you're a small, medium business, you can have them shipped over from China, from the far western states of America, again, for similar sorts of budgets, which are absolutely personalized to your own brand, which means that anybody who's using their mobile devices, which is a reciprocal for virtual reality content, when you slide them in the back of cardboard, can suddenly have their own brands marketed on this stuff. And equally, it ain't going to be too expensive to create VR experiences that the masses can enjoy using their mobile phones. So I sort of try and break it down to the massive, sort of huge VR experiences of the great big headsets. And then you've got the fact that there are 2.3 billion smartphones at the moment around here, which people can use and slip in the back of cardboard, which are the more sort of transient, pretty awesome, but cheap VR experiences that anybody can enjoy. And that's why small businesses need to be aware of what's going on.
What about? I am going to. This is why it's a bit geeky. I'm going to say that, Jen. My favorite apps. Let's have a quick chat about some favorite apps. One of the reasons, do you know VRSE? It's Chris Milk that put this together, and I recommend it for anybody who wants to experience on cardboard. VRSE it's the evolution of Verse. The company's called Verse, actually, of VRSE. Have you done that one?
Yeah, it's awesome, right?
It's awesome.
Like that. They're really good.
And the reason I mention it is that showed me storytelling in that space. Yeah. And then I realized it'd been to Sundance. Now, when people get a glimpse, this is now, in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, any pixels and anything, all of that can just go. So you have just increasingly real worlds that you're entering into. And I think that's what the high-end things give you. But on the lower end of it, let's talk about the 360 world that is Street View.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how can you, anybody has got their mobile phone to take 360-degree photos using the Google Camera app, and then all of a sudden you're viewing them as a photosphere within your Google Cardboard. Christ, anybody can do that in 5 minutes, and they can suddenly let people experience the immersive world that they've just come from. It's phenomenal.
It is, and I think the opportunity is education. We see that rolling out. Cardboard's got certain programs going on as well. But in terms of commercial applications, we've touched on this before, estate agents, holiday makers, people like that. John Lynch has been doing a lot with Destinology. He's done all of that stuff, and you see that on this site, really beautiful destinations that you can experience just by putting the headset on, just by accessing that file essentially, and you're going to have a look around. And I think that's the piece which is you've got the really sort of high end quality having the photographer come out, and then you've got the any user like you or I that's just got the phone with us, and then everything in between. And I think that's something which people need to see. It's accessible now, but and the more you pay, the higher quality you're going to get probably for the output. But if people haven't experienced it, did you find it changes your view? Does it not, James? I think this is a piece for if people haven't put on cardboard yet, or haven't gone and just bought one. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a pre-VR experience and there's a post-VR, kind of like view of the world.
Yeah, but I think the most important point of what we've just mentioned there is because it's accessible, it means that there's a mass market appeal to it. Because anybody could walk into any bar, restaurant, hotel destination, holiday destination, real estate, anything, and get their smartphone out and take a 360 immersive picture. And let's not even get onto the video immersion side that we've got in here with the likes of Gyroptic, which are one of the only cameras that can be used within the Google Street View stuff. All of a sudden, average Joe member of the public can take an immersive photo, take it home to their gran, stick their granny in Google Cardboard, and let them experience what they experienced. Let's be honest. Beautiful photography is wonderful, but it never gives you the entire setting of where you've been and what you've done. Because anybody has accessible rights to that now, it means that there is mass market, which means every single company has the potential to do something exciting. Bearing in mind, and I think I'm correct in saying this, Martin, do correct me if I'm wrong, and John will most definitely know this. As businesses, you can take photospheres and you can actually have great big advertising signs within your photosphere.
Yeah.
I think you've got about 14% of the entire 360 photosphere that you can have as text. So you could have your advertising signboard in your photosphere that anybody searching around that town and looking for photospheres will see your business. It's things like that which you can just be very creative and very clever with it all. Fantastic.
Yes, I don't know the details, but that is it. Again, it's opportunities. It's understanding that there is still a lot to be played for in this space.
Absolutely.
What else is going on then with Google? Google and you.
Google and me?
Yeah.
I wish I was in it. I wish I knew their secrets. No, I just think, to be honest, I think the whole... You sort of mentioned it at the start with the word platform. What I think Google are so unbelievably well placed to do here is because of all their alphabet world that they've got running at the moment, so many elements of the Google ecosystem can have a really good fit within a virtual or an augmented world, or as I like to term it, it's a selective reality. Because things like just basic automation, artificial intelligence, your general geofencing using Google Maps. The list can go on and on. Programmatically advertising using DoubleClick, blah, blah, blah. All of that can be used within a virtual interface. So Google, I think, personally, I reckon Google and Microsoft are probably some of the best placed companies at the moment within this space. And I'm afraid, I don't know where Apple are, but at the moment, I'm not seeing a great deal, except a few patents which have come through to sort of give themselves accessible sort of routes into this market. But I'm not seeing any moves at the moment.
Interesting. It's I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out where to go next in the podcast. I'm thinking, James. Where do we go? Where do we go now? I'm thinking to bring it back round. Travel, we've got the virtual, we've got that. Okay, let's go for this. Let's just take a radical view, James Dearsley. 15 years' time. Yep. Are you a Kurzweil fan? Do you like Ray Kurzweil's work around this? Do you think we're heading towards some point of singularity where we're going to be, it's an exponential growth curve that we're on? Let's start that again. So let me start that again.
No, do that. No, I think it's a very valid point. So don't go away from it.
Okay. So, James. So let's just take this out. 15, 20 years time, where do you think we'll be? Are you a Ray Kurzweil fan? Do you believe in the singularity?
Do you know, yes, I think I do in some way. I think it's a very it's becoming a very generic phrase, which I'm a little bit scared of, and I think there is an issue there with that. But if I may state one point, which I think looking 15 years ahead of ourselves, the internet has pretty much improved what I would say is global communication. Before email, before video conferencing, we never had the ability to communicate particularly well globally. And my wonder is whether or not VR will actually solve the communication issues.
Yeah.
It will solve the fact that we can be anywhere we want to be, whether it be in a sense physically, or will it can be philosophically, or whether it can just be for just pure and plain business, where we just strap a virtual reality headset on and we can be anybody that we want to be, anywhere we want to be, and when. And I just think that is a really strong point that people need to understand, that at the moment we are happy or relatively happy in our own reality. If suddenly we can have an ultimately personal experience wherever we want to be and how we want to be. I mean, it's the classic millennial thing. Millennials, they want everything now and they want it to be as best as it can be. Arguably, virtual reality has the potential of doing that, which brings about both its big positives and probably some big negatives. I just wonder if I'll be sitting there when I'm 75, sort of wondering what on earth my grandchildren are doing in their VR headsets sitting at home. But, the point is, I think there's great progress over the next 15 years, and it's ultimately very exciting.
Yeah, and I think the point you're making, certainly we can see it's about connecting.
Yeah.
And it's about communicating. And I think that what it looks like is pretty different to what we can imagine. But it is exciting. And I think that we're all on this journey now using this technology. I mean, I look back, say 3.5 years ago, Hangouts, for me, when I started, it was like, wow, the doors of the world are open, because the culture that was around the technology allowed people to be free to connect with each other. It didn't matter where in the world you were from, or how much money you had, or where you lived, anything. None of those usual factors were important. It was just simply the world is there, and we were entering it through Hangouts. And I think that culture probably didn't remain as much. It could have done, but I think VR is probably going to bring it back, because people see connection.
Well, I think it's also more than connections. I think I'd almost put the word consciousness in there as well, because
you hippie. You did drag consciousness into the... Yes, it's a change in our consciousness. It's a global. The view's different when you connect in that way.
But take it another stage as well, which is it's not just about those sort of connections with people. There's also just the very sort of nature of society itself. Look at how VR is used today. So, I mean, bearing in mind, you're talking about 15 years' time. Today, they're saying that VR is already about to solve people who are stressed for flying. It's already to help people go to the doctors, or go to very stressful situations where they can just be immersed in an entirely different environment and feel as if they are there rather than in a situation they really don't want to be in. And take the very nature of today, or rather 6 months ago, I was in a VR experience where I was in one room in a virtual reality headset, looking at the avatar of myself where I was moving limbs and it was moving with me. So it was a real sense of immersion. And in the next room, although it could have been America, was another person in another virtual reality headset who walked in the door, and I spoke to them in the VR environment. And this is what I mean by there could come a time easily within the next 15 years where we will be meeting people in VR experiences and it's all entirely normal.
Yeah.
It's like me walking to the pub to you today, Martin, and sitting down, having a chat, a beer and a curry, and getting on with it. We could, in theory, be doing that within 15 years.
I love that idea. If anybody wants to create a curry app plug-in, that would be great. Let's do that. James, tell people what you're working on, where they can find you.
Fine. So, I'm the founder of a digital marketing bureau. And ultimately, at the moment, my interest lies in the VR space, actually, but it's certainly transient with that, so it can move at any time. But I'm looking at creating a a virtual reality startup which has a very corporate social responsible angle to it. I'm a big believer that the best talent which is coming out there at the moment is coming from the universities who are using the software that we are building these sorts of experience with are coming from. But there's a big disconnect within the world of the universities and the world of work, which is graduates come out of university with great qualifications but no experience. And the work people want graduates, but they only want them with experience. And we're trying to do a bit of a match-up where we're bringing people into a sort of a 3-month graduate training scheme to train them up further in the world of work and giving them real-life VR projects to work on. And at the same time, because of doing that, we're able to give more cost-effective solutions for big companies and small ones, for that matter, to have cost-effective entry points in trying these VR solutions on their own businesses. So I think that could be a pretty exciting proposition, and we're just going around for some funding as we speak. So it's good times.
Awesome. And just let people know your website, James.
Yes, it's www.thedigitalmarketingbureau.com. Or if you're interested in the more tech side of what I do and evangelize on, it's just www.jamesdearsley.co.uk.
There you go, everybody. That was James. And I really enjoyed chatting, James. I enjoyed that. You opened my mind to it all. So thank you.
Pleasure.
Cool.
As always.
That, ladies and gentlemen, was the Google for Business podcast. I'm Martin Shirrington, and hope to see you next time. Well, it's a podcast, so you won't actually see me, but you'll hear me. Anyway, you know what I mean. See you then.